This is just a quick video showing how to use MoTeC i2 Pro. I can of course make more videos should you need anything else with regards to, well, anything engineering. Doesn't have to be MoTeC related, but yeah, I think data is something that isn't taught so much through uni, at least not in my experience. And each different software that you're taught anyway, they differ so much that just because you taught one doesn't mean you can do another one. So yeah, anything you need, let me know, and yeah, I'll do what I can for you. So you open up MoTeC i2 Pro for the first time. You can download that through MoTeC's website. They've got a nice sort of downloads page with every bit of software you could ever need. Open it up, and then you'll be greeted by this, and you'll click New Circuit Workspace, and then you'll press OK a few times, and eventually you'll end up in the workspace. I've already made an example one, so I'm going to go ahead and open my example one instead. So you'll be on this page at the start, and you'll see that we've got loads of lovely templates, but we've got no data in there to analyze or do anything with. We've got a couple of different options as well in there. We can start looking at suspension things and all this fancy stuff, but no data in there. So first thing we do for getting data in, go to open log file at the top. We find wherever our data is, scrolling up and down. And so I've already got an example of some data here. This is Barcelona race weekend qualifying session. This was only a couple of months ago now, a month or so ago. It's with the Mustang GT4 with Eric Evans and Marco Signoretti as my drivers. So I'll open that data up, and you can see the majority of all these sort of template analysis pages are empty still. And that's because while MoTeC creates these incredible templates, these channels do not link up with the channels on our car. So our car will each sensor will produce a channel, and it will be called whatever it is, and it won't be the same as that. It won't link up with that, and therefore no data goes in. And it'll be like that for almost any car you work on. They won't just use the generic MoTeC channels. So you could go through and change all of these to the correct channels, and you'd have some decent work pages that way. That's a lot of effort, and I'll be totally honest, these aren't great. You can do a far better job than these, and a lot of this stuff you're not going to use in the sort of thing that you're trying to analyse for a GT car. This isn't built for a GT car, so you can build something far better yourself. It takes a long time to sort of understand what it is you do and don't need to look at when you're at the track. A lot of it is trial and error. You'll find yourself building things and building different templates while you're at the tracks to give you a better understanding of what's going on. Then you'll find at home you come up with a great idea, you just design and develop that idea, you develop the whole page, then you go to the track, and sometimes drivers will love it and think, oh my god, it's the best thing ever, and they'll be so engaged, and the drivers will learn so much and it'll be great. Other times you'll make something, you'll show it them once, they won't really be interested, or you'll never use it yourself, you'll never need it, and it won't get touched. And that's part of the development process. Just trying different things and identifying some of the shortfalls in like a driver's knowledge or your knowledge of the car or whatever it is, and then producing something to help you recover from those shortfalls. So yeah, I ignore all of these things, and then I've made myself a little template for us to go through and have a better idea of how MoTeC i2 works. So, well, to show you how to make something like this, I've got a little example page. I'll just remove, in fact, we'll go right to the very start of it all. Get rid of that. So we can right click anywhere on this bit of space here, right click, new worksheet, we'll call it example. We've got this checkered page, we right click on that, we press add. We've got all these different options available to us, some really fancy things you can do with this. But one of the basic things that almost every workbook has is a time distance graph. So we can open up that, we can add a group. Within our group, we add whatever channel we want. So we will just add the RPM channel we had before. So we open that up, and then if I double click on it, I can change the colour of it to any colour I want, just to help distinguish. We've not got lots of the same colour going on. I can choose the units if I wanted to turn it into SI base units, metric units, whatever it is. If I want to do some fancy calculations, you can create your own channels as well using math channels. So you got to keep your units right for that. You don't want to be trying to use like I don't know, pounds in one of your channels while you're using meters in another. You need to keep it all metric, SI, all that stuff from uni and whatever that you taught. So it's useful for that, but I won't really go into creating math channels today. It's very useful, but it's a little bit sort of, it's not really necessary right now, I don't think. So yeah, we'll just leave that as it is. Choose a nice color. We can press OK, and then we press OK again, and now we've got our RPM plotted over a specific lap. So we're looking at the third lap. As you can see here, we've got a long out lap because it'll be sat in a pit lane waiting for ages. First, well, it's long out lap is first flying lap, second flying lap, third flying lap, fourth is in lap clearly, and then the next driver goes out, does his laps, and he comes in. Another way of viewing that, if we go onto data, we can see all of the laps, and we can choose the different laps just by ticking which one we want to look at there. For now, we'll keep on the fastest lap. So that is in essence how I made this. If I right click here and go to properties again, here's all my different groups, and I've got all my different channels in there. So I've got throttle, that's my throttle pedal channel, that's when TC is being used. My brake pressure channel, we're looking at front brake pressure. You can do a little very simple math channel to combine soon. You just do front brake pressure plus rear brake pressure to give you total brake pressure. On the actual sort of analysis stuff that I use at the track, I'll always use total, just because it gives the driver a better idea exactly what his foot is doing to the car, total, not just the front. When ABS is active, the different gears that we're in that he's using, angle of the steering wheel, running lap time, that just allows me to get a delta when I compare two lap times, which I'll show you in a minute. And then the speed of the car, GPS speed. GPS speed is probably, in this case, one of the best ones to go with when we're just looking at what speed the car is doing into a corner. If we start looking at wheel speeds, we'll start seeing wheel spin from the rears as he applies throttle. So the speed, you're looking at the rotation of the wheel, you're not looking at how fast the chassis as a whole is moving in relation to the circuit. The only thing we've got to be careful of with GPS speed is, of course, if we lose satellite signal around the track, then speed will go a little bit funny. There are a couple of examples I've had in the past of that, but on the whole, I think we're all good like this. So we can press OK, and now we've got all the data available to us in a nice laid out format. Well, all the driver data, the basics, the things the drivers are interested in of how they drove the car. We've also got a little plot here on the side of the track map. I'll show you how I got that. So again, you need a little bit of the checkered space. Right click on that, add, and then I can go to choose any different type of track map you want. The rainbow track, that's an interesting one. It allows you to overlay, say, gears in relation to the track map. In fact, we'll do it here now. I can go color channel, and then I can choose gear. I can leave all that as it is for now. I won't think about it too much. Press OK, and it shows me what gears are being used. The plots and colours are all off. I wouldn't want it like that, but it just shows us what gears are being used where on the circuit. But for now, I'll get rid of that. But yeah, I did the same to get this GPS one. I just went GPS track. I went to map. I show Google image background. I pressed retrieve and I pressed OK, and then it appeared. But I'll just get rid of that one for now. I don't need that because I've got mine already here. So yeah, the track map's very useful because the drivers switch off. They don't know where they're at when you're going through data with them, and they just they'll be proactive and question you, or they won't bother and they'll just go on their phone because that's what race drivers do. You've got to treat them like children. You've got to have this approach of I've got to keep them entertained and got to keep them interested. And so data and as silly as it seems, colour makes a big difference, and just keeping it simple and straightforward but appealing to look at, that's a big thing for certain drivers, without trying to be too specific there or anybody in particular, but it's you got to keep it nice. After all, they're not going to learn if they're not paying attention. So one thing I like to do for myself but drivers don't like, when I'm just analysing data myself before I do a big debrief of my drivers, I'll actually put throttle pedal and brake pressure in the same group, like that. I'll combine the two together, and what that does is overlays them like that, rather than in two separate things, and that allows you to know exactly what he's doing with his feet, really. I could add a clutch pedal in there as well if I wanted to, if I wanted to check that he wasn't riding the clutch or anything. In the GT4, he should only ever touch the clutch as he's pulling away, and then beyond that, his foot should be nowhere near it. And if it ever is, I'll tell that I'll say that to him, and make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't want to burn out a clutch on a race car. That's not an easy fix, and quite expensive. So we want to avoid doing that. I like to overlay them. I've just realised I've not actually shown you how to zoom in and out of data. If I double click anywhere along this data, like this, I can then, just double click, don't have to hold it or anything like after that, so double click with the left mouse button, drag along to whatever point I want. You can see it highlights various points as I move along, so I'm going to go there, and then I click again left click again, and I've zoomed in on that particular bit of data. To zoom back out to the lap, I press W on the keyboard, and I've got a lap, and then if I want to zoom into to see the whole entire stint, more useful if I wanted to analyse temperatures and pressures of the car and started looking more about the reliability of the car. Not something I'd really look at with drivers. I just press F3. Oh, it's not F3, it's F2. Press F2, and then I've got all of the data from the whole entire data file here available as one. I don't really want to look at that. It's quite messy. It's not really useful to me. So I'll just zoom back to the lap. I'll put throttle and brake pressure together on the same one. I'm looking at it myself, just so I can see what he's doing pedal wise, and I can see here that he is double pedaling, as it's called. So when a driver both brakes and accelerates at the same time, we want to try and stop a driver doing that. Although that's relatively minimal, we're really analysing that to the nth degree there. We've zoomed right in, and so the point at which, if I show you here another little trick we can do, if I press the spacebar, that creates a delta or a datum point. So that's where I'm saying roughly he started coming off throttle, and this is the point he's fully off throttle. And now come down here. This triangle is your delta, as you'll know from your physics and math lessons, all that sort of stuff. 0.14 seconds, that whole length of time. So although yes, he is double pedaling, and he is, that's not good for the car. It's not fast. You're asking the car to go forwards while trying to tell it to go to slow down. So that's not good. It's for such a tiny amount of time and such a tiny distance, 10 meters, when you're traveling. What speed are we doing? Like 250 kilometers an hour. It's somewhat irrelevant. It's fine, acceptable. So to get rid of that, we press D, and then our datum point is gone. But it's good for checking things. It's always a good little tool to have. So beyond things like that, double pedaling and stuff, and also tapping up the brake pedal, you can see here our driver is tapping the brake pedal repeatedly down the straight. He's doing that because of pad knockoff. A lot of GT cars have this issue where you go over a high frequency curb and the brake pad gets knocked away from the brake disc, and then you want to tap the brake pedal up lightly just to face that pad back up to the disc, so that when you come to the braking zone, you've got a nice firm pedal rather than the pedal going long. And that first off, it's not going to be as efficient with slowing down, but also it scares the hell out of a driver because suddenly he feels like he's got no brake pedal going into a corner. So he's a bit excessive there with his tapping up. It doesn't need to be anywhere near that much, but drivers have little quirks and things they like to do, but that's a bit too excessive that he will lose a little bit of time doing something like that. So we need to bring that up with them. And first off, ask why. There might be a genuine reason. Maybe he's running along the curb the whole way. He's being pushed by the car, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to keep tapping the brake pedal." That's really unlikely. And also, you can watch the video before chatting with the driver to find out that is or isn't the case before you accuse them, and then drivers get all egotistical and whatever happens there. You don't want to accuse them of something unless you're 100% confident. So ask the question before you go ahead and say do or don't do this. It's normally a good approach. So beyond that, there's not much I can really look at for what was good or bad. I'm not a race driver. I don't know particularly what is good and bad. Just looking at their data. So a really useful tool is being able to overlay data. So I go to my data tab, and we'll choose, so we've got Eric's qualifying stint. He's come in, and then Marco has gone out and done his stint. So we'll choose one of Marco's laps. Let's choose Marco's fastest. We click here, and that click anywhere along there overlays any of these laps against the lap you've already selected there. Now this looks a little bit messy. It's not so nice on its own. First thing we always want to check, it's already been done at the moment, but just to check, well, if I showed you it wasn't done, here I'm plotting against time rather than distance, and so you can see brake traces are everything's sort of off a bit, because rather than looking at, you want to look at analyze data between two laps when a driver is at that same part of the track. It's irrelevant that they're doing it at the same time of the lap. It needs to be at the same part of the track. Otherwise, I could say right here that one driver's braked stupidly early in comparison to the other one, but then you look at the plot, they're not at the same point on the track. So make sure we're always on distance when we're analysing two different laps and two different drivers, or whatever it might be. So everything's sort of flush. And again, when we're looking at data, although I love having brake and throttle together, when we're looking at data with a driver, particularly overlays, it gets a bit messy, and so I tend to put it back to being two separate ones. So if I just bring the brake back down to there, so it's separate again, makes it a little bit easier to understand now. There's a little bit less going on. So Marco's lap is in white, and then Eric's lap is in coloured, or that red dot. And so we can zoom in on any particular bit and start analysing what it is they're doing, but we don't really know who's gaining or losing without a time delta. And so we can get that by clicking on our running lap time and then pressing F. I pressed the wrong one. Press F3, not F2. F2 shows the whole sequence of data. We press F3, and that shows us our time variance. And so we can see that initially Marco is up on Eric. That's because Eric was tapping up his brake pedal a bit too much, losing a little bit down the straight. And then as the lap goes on, Eric finds some time, or maybe Marco makes some mistakes. We can zoom right in and understand exactly what that is. I'm not going to do any of that now. You can sort of go through that yourself. If you've got any questions, and ask me, and I can make videos and doing that, absolutely. I can take you through any of that however you want, but for now, I'll leave that to be something for you to sort of investigate yourselves, and see what you can find. You'll probably find things that I don't find. That's the thing with data. There's so many different channels you can look at that it's very difficult to for one person to find everything. Like if I look at the channels, these are all of the channels that our car, the Mustang GT4, plots, and there's quite a lot. So depending on what it is you're looking at, there's a lot of different things that you or whatever it is you're trying to understand. There's a lot of different options for you there. And so I have another video I'll show you at some point. I'll show you my workbook of all the different sort of plots and things that I have. There's a lot of different stuff. I'm not just looking at driver performance. I'm looking at engine health, gearbox health, wheel speeds, and all sorts of stuff. Making various different plots in order to understand exactly what's going on with my car from both a performance sort of aspect and from a reliability and safety aspect. There's a lot of different things, as well as a lifing and maintenance aspect. I use a lot of this to understand exactly where each different part of my car is at, lifing wise, mileage wise, to know whether it should be replaced and that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some idea on how MoTeC i2 works. If you want any other questions answered, then let me know, and either I'll send you a message back, or I'll make another video. Either way works for me. But yeah, cheers.